Welcome to the deep dive. For the longest time, medicine was about finding treatments that worked well for most people.
Sort of a broad approach.
Exactly. But things are changing fast. Today, we're diving into a real revolution happening in pharmaceuticals, personalized development.
It's a fascinating shift. We're moving beyond that one-size-fits-all model.
And the cutting edge now is all about tailoring therapies specifically to you, the individual patient.
That's right. We've gathered quite a bit of information looking at how new strategies are really taking hold. Things like um, biomarker-driven trials and, importantly, patient-centric design.
These aren't just buzzwords anymore, are they?
Not at all. They're becoming central to how we actually develop and even deliver new medicines. It's more than just tweaking old drugs. It feels like a fundamental change in thinking.
And that's exactly what we want to unpack for you today. We're aiming to get past the high-level concepts and understand the practical ways this personalization is actually happening.
Yeah, how is all that individual patient information being used? What does it mean on the ground for treatment?
Precisely. So let's get into it. Where do we start?
Well, a really foundational piece of this puzzle is the rise of biomarker-driven trials.
Okay, biomarkers. What does that mean in this context?
So what's really transformative here is that we're moving towards selecting people for clinical studies based on specific biological characteristics, their individual makeup.
Ah, I see. So instead of just enrolling anyone with, say, condition X.
Exactly. You target those who share particular molecular signatures or biomarkers. The idea is you're finding the patients who are most likely to actually benefit from that specific treatment being tested.
Right, so you're not casting such a wide net anymore. You're using these biological clues, these markers, to hone in.
Precisely. And this is having a huge impact already.
Can you give an example?
Oncology is a great place to look. Think about certain lung cancers. If we can identify specific mutations, like EGFR, for instance, then we can use highly targeted therapies. And these often lead to significantly better outcomes than, say, traditional chemotherapy for those specific patients.
Because the drug is designed to work best in people with that exact marker.
Exactly. The trial can clearly show the drug works really well for that group because you focused on them from the start.
That makes a lot of sense. A really clear example of how a marker unlocks better treatment. Okay, so that's biomarkers. You also mentioned patient-centric design.
Yes, another really key trend. And this sounds like what it is, making the whole drug development process much more focused on the patient's actual experience.
So putting their needs and maybe preferences right at the center.
Absolutely. It goes beyond just, does the drug work?
Yeah.
It really asks you to consider things like the burden of the treatment itself.
You mean like how difficult it is to take side effects?
Yeah, exactly. How does it impact their daily life? What's the effect on their overall quality of life, not just the disease symptoms?
So it's about the whole picture, ease of use, tolerability, how it fits into someone's actual life.
Correct. And these considerations are genuinely starting to shape things like how trials are designed, what outcomes are even measured, sometimes even the drug's formulation or how it's delivered.
Interesting. It feels like a much more holistic view.
It is. Now, if you think about what powers both these biomarker strategies and this patient-centric approach, it's really the ability to integrate and analyze huge amounts of patient data.
Ah, the data piece. That seems crucial. Where's all this individual data coming from?
Well, it's exploding, really.
Yeah.
We're getting genetic information, detailed electronic health records, lifestyle factors, even data from, wearable trackers and things.
Wow, that's a lot of different streams of information. How do you make sense of it all?
And that's where it gets really sophisticated. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are becoming absolutely invaluable tools for sifting through all this complexity.
AI in drug development. It really does feel like we're stepping into a new phase. What can AI actually do with that data? What kinds of patterns can it find?
The real strength of AI here is finding these incredibly intricate patterns in massive data sets, patterns that, frankly, humans might just miss.
Okay.
So, as some of the literature points out, different types of neural networks are being used. You have deep neural networks, or DNNs, which are great at learning complex, sort of nonlinear relationships, perfect for predicting drug responses.
Okay.
Then you have things like convolutional neural networks, CNNs, which are really good at analyzing medical images, maybe finding diagnostic markers in scans.
I see. Image analysis.
And recurrent neural networks, RNNs, they can handle sequential data, like a patient's health history over time,
Yeah.
to maybe understand how a disease progresses.
And feed-forward networks.
FFNs are often the sort of fundamental building blocks for many of these more complex systems, so different tools for different analytical jobs.
So AI isn't just one thing, it's a whole toolkit for making sense of this complex individual biology and predicting responses.
Precisely. And these insights, they directly feed into how we customize treatment strategies. By understanding a patient's unique profile, we can tailor therapies much more precisely.
Okay, let's talk about that customization. How does it actually change what happens to a patient?
Well, it can influence several key things. First, as we said, picking the right drug based on their biomarkers. But second, and this is really important, it allows for optimizing the dose.
The dosage. Why is that so variable?
Well, this gets into something called pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic variability, PK and PD. Big terms, but crucial concepts.
Okay, PK and PD variability, break that down for us. Why does the same dose affect people differently?
So think of pharmacokinetics, the PK, as
Okay.
what your body does to the drug, how it absorbs it, distributes it around, metabolizes it, gets rid of it.
Right, the drug's journey through me.
Exactly. And pharmacodynamics, the PD, is the flip side, what the drug does to your body, its effects, both the good ones and the side effects.
Okay, body on drug, drug on body. Got it.
And these processes, they are influenced by loads of factors that differ between individuals.
So my journey and the drug's impact could be quite different from yours, even with the same pill.
Absolutely. For instance, a drug's basic properties, like how well it dissolves in water versus fat, really impacts how it's absorbed, and that interacts differently with individual body compositions.
Makes sense.
And then there's protein binding. Drugs often latch on to proteins in your blood, like albumin or AGP. How much they bind can vary, and that changes how much free drug is actually available to do its job.
Interesting. So less free drug might mean less effect.
Potentially, yes. And maybe the biggest variable is metabolism, how our bodies break down drugs. This involves enzymes, especially the cytochrome P450 family, but also others like aldehyde oxidase, xanthine oxidase. There's huge variation here between people.
And that variation is often genetic, right?
Often, yes. So you might have genes that make you break down a certain drug super fast, meaning you don't get enough effect at a standard dose. Or you might break it down very slowly, leading to buildup and potential toxicity.
Wow. So understanding my specific metabolism for a drug could lead to a much better dose for me.
That's exactly the goal. More precise dosing, choosing drugs that fit your metabolic profile, aiming for better results and fewer problems.
This level of detail is really quite amazing. The potential seems enormous. Can we talk about some other specific ways this customization happens?
Sure. We touched on using genetic info to predict response or side effect risk. That's a direct application of biomarker strategies.
Right.
Another, maybe more established example is adjusting doses based on body surface area, or BSA.
Body surface area.
Yeah, it's common, especially in cancer chemotherapy. It's a way to account for the fact that body size influences how a drug is distributed and cleared from the body.
So instead of just one standard dose, the calculation takes your size into account.
Correct. It's a step towards personalization, recognizing that one size doesn't fit all. And, this whole drive is changing clinical trials too.
How so? If you're testing personalized approaches, the trials themselves must need to adapt.
They absolutely do. We're seeing more sophisticated designs emerge.
Like what?
Well, things like biomarker stratified trials. Here, you divide patients into groups based on whether they have a specific marker or not. Then you can see how well the treatment works in each specific subgroup.
Okay, so testing within defined populations.
Right. And then there are also strategy designs. These actually compare the overall outcome of using a biomarker-guided treatment plan versus just using the standard, non-personalized approach.
To see if the personalization actually adds value overall.
Exactly. These designs are really important for proving the benefit. But, as you can imagine, they add complexity.
I bet. Finding enough patients with specific markers, analyzing smaller groups, it sounds challenging.
It definitely is. Recruitment can be harder, and the statistical analysis needs to be very careful.
Now, thinking about the real-world science behind this, we often talk about publications like Organic Process Research and Development, OPR&D, focusing on the how-to of making drugs. How does that kind of work connect to personalized medicine?
That's a great point. While OPR&D might not be publishing studies on specific personalized therapies being discovered, the work they focus on is absolutely critical for personalized medicine.
How so?
Think about it. OPR&D is all about the detailed chemistry, manufacturing, controlling the quality of drug substances and products.
Right. Yeah, getting the drug made consistently and well.
Exactly. Now, Imagine you figured out a very precise, personalized dose for someone. That precision is useless if the drug formulation isn't optimized, so that exact dose is actually absorbed properly by that individual.
Ah, I see. So things like optimizing solubility, how the drug dissolves, which is a big topic in OPR&D and formulation science, become even more crucial when the dose is tailored.
Absolutely paramount. You need to ensure that specific personalized amount gets into the body effectively and predictably. The fundamental process understanding from OPR&D underpins that.
So the making it part has to be incredibly reliable for the using it personally part to work.
Couldn't have said it better. And another angle is analytical methods, developing super sensitive, accurate ways to measure things.
Like measuring the biomarkers in a patient sample or the drug level.
Precisely. That's vital for identifying the right patients and for monitoring if the personalized treatment is actually working as intended, maintaining the right drug concentration. That development and validation of analytical methods is core OPR&D type work.
Okay, so even if it's not the headline discovery, that rigorous process science is the essential foundation enabling personalized approaches.
It's indispensable.
That
Absolutely.
really connects the dots. So, okay, the potential is huge, the science is advancing, but what are the big hurdles still in the way?
Well, there are definitely significant challenges. One major one is continuing to develop and roll out robust, easy-to-use diagnostic tools.
The tools to actually measure those biomarkers reliably and efficiently in everyday practice.
Exactly. We need those to be widely available and accurate to guide treatment decisions effectively.
Makes sense. What else?
And then there are the logistical and, frankly, ethical considerations around collecting and using all that sensitive patient data. Privacy, security, consent, these are big issues.
Yeah, handling all that personal health information responsibly is critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, designing and running the clinical trials for personalized medicines is still complex. It requires new statistical thinking, operational adjustments.
So diagnostics, data ethics, and logistics and trial complexity seem like key areas needing ongoing work.
Definitely. But looking forward, the trajectory is pretty exciting.
What do you see coming down the pike?
Well, we can definitely expect AI and data science tools to get even more sophisticated, refining our ability to predict responses, identify subtle patterns, and tailor therapies with even greater precision.
More powerful analytical engines.
Right. And the basic research continues identifying novel biomarkers, understanding disease mechanisms at a deeper molecular level. All of that feeds back into creating new personalized targets and strategies.
The whole field seems incredibly dynamic. The idea of treatments becoming so precisely matched to us as individuals, it's quite something.
It really is. So just to sort of recap our conversation today, we've really seen these key trends emerging strongly in personalized development.
Right, the move towards biomarker-driven trials,
The increasing focus on patient-centric design, thinking about the whole experience.
and underpinning it all, the integration of vast amounts of patient data, analyzed smartly, to customize treatment strategies.
And the ultimate goal, the potential benefit for you listening, is clear. Therapies that are hopefully more effective, more targeted, because they actually take your unique biology into account.
Fewer side effects, better outcomes, potentially.
That's the promise.
Hmm.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you to chew on. As we get better and better at understanding and addressing the unique biological signature of each person, what does that ultimately mean for healthcare? What does it mean when treatments can become truly as individual as we are?